Okay, the board is just a half-inch piece of plywood cut to 48 inches long and 5 inches wide. Alright, you'll also need to cut two 2x2s 8 1/2 inches long. Onto these you'll set the skeleton kids. Okay, the handles that the skeleton kids will be tied to are simple 1x2s cut 6 1/2 inches long, and this is a half-inch piece of PVC, and that is cut 9 inches long, and you'll have to bore a 3/4 inch hole in the 1x2, and then to keep it from spinning around just put a real tiny nail straight through there and it'll keep it sturdy. On the bottom side of the board you can tell I used the top quality lumber in our garage. This is never ever permanently attached except for the motor mount. Okay, the measurements. Where do you want to put stuff on the board? The 2x2s are 5 inches in from the end, dead center in the middle, which would be 2 1/2 inches. So 5 inches in, 2 1/2. The 1x2 handles are 10 1/4 inch in, and again everything's pretty much mounted in the middle. Okay. The motor mount then is mounted 13 3/8 inches from the end, 2 1/2 inches again in the middle. It is nothing more than a 1 1/2 inch L bracket. Okay, one thing to remember on the board is as long as you've got your middle right with adequate room for the PVC pipe, and you've got the L bracket mounted where it should be, these are kind of approximate down here, but those are the measurements we used. The teeter-totter mount. The base is a 1/2 inch piece of plywood cut 12 inches by 16 1/2 inches. You'll also need to cut two 2x4s 10 inches long, two 2x2s 5 1/4 inch long, and one 1/2 inch PVC 9 inches long. You're going to need to bore a 3/4 inch hole 1 inch down from the top and about 1 1/2 inches from either side. You should be able to just draw your lines, and where they intersect is where you want to drill the 3/4 inch hole. This 2x2 then will be about 1 1/2 inches down from the top, and it just supports this from flailing. And then we just added another support at the bottom. Those are Then the PVC, we secure it from moving back and forth by drilling very small holes and just stuffing some finish nails through there. The motor mount is comprised of a 2x4 11 inches long, a 2 inch L bracket, a 4 inch worm gear clamp 1/2 inch wide. Okay, the clamp here, you want to make sure that you chisel between the base and the 2x4 because you want this to screw down hard on there. And in addition to chiseling the bottom out, you want to chisel the sides also. That helps the clamp get flat because the motor is much smaller than the board. Okay, in order to mount the motor to the L bracket, you'll need a split lock washer and an M6 1x16 hex cap screw. This is the wiper motor. It's a Trico or Trico, I'm not sure how to pronounce it. seems to be pretty commonly used. When it arrives, it'll have this arm on it, and in the arm will be mounted a peg with a ball on it. You don't need the peg with the ball, so what I did was go to a neighbor and he just took his grinder and sawed it off and we made the hole. Okay, the connections to the motor is a 2-wire affair. There are several pins in there. They all perform different functions. I can't tell you what they are. At any rate, we just used these top 2 pins up here. And in this case, I simply soldered to those 2 pins. I suppose you could use a quick disconnect if you wished. Okay, you will have figured this out by now, but you have to take the old arm off. We're not going to use it for this particular prop, so it just unscrews off of here. Keep these nuts and washers, they're kind of important. I'm not even sure what size they are. And now we'll show you how to mount the motor. Okay, so actually how to mount the motor is real simple. You get your metric screw and washer, and you slide the back of the motor under your clamp. It will line up, at least it always has for me, pretty much exactly with one of the motor mounts. That's all you need. And just screw it tight. Okay, once you've got the metric screw tight, you move to the worm gear. And it's very simple to use. You just tighten this down. And you'll learn why you beveled all that out with a wood chisel, because these tighten up real nice in here. This only has to be secure. If you tighten it down too much, it will buckle the box around the actual engine motor.